What happened at Accusations today changed British politics forever. Nigel Farage didn't just destroy Keir Starmer, he obliterated him so completely that Accusations Labour MPs fled the chamber in absolute tears. The Speaker lost control. Armed security rushed in, and what Farage exposed about Starmer's secret offshore accounts is so explosive that me launched an emergency investigation within hours. This isn't political theatre. This is the fall of a government in real time. And you're about to witness the most devastating political assassination in modern British history. The chamber was packed beyond capacity when Starmer rose for what should have been routine PMQs. Every seat filled, journalists crammed into galleries like sardines. But something felt wrong. Opposition MPs sat unusually quiet. Even veteran political observers sensed electricity in the air, like watching storm clouds gather before lightning strikes. Nigel Farage had been unusually silent for weeks. No interviews, no social media posts, no public appearances. Political insiders whispered, he was finished, irrelevant. Yesterday's man. They couldn't have been more wrong. Behind the scenes, he was building the case that would bring down a government. Then at exactly Accusations, Nigel Farage stood in his hand a thick manila folder that would destroy careers and possibly send people to prison. The folder contained months of investigation, documents leaked by patriotic whistleblowers, bank statements that should never see daylight, and photographs so damning they made seasoned MPs physically recoil. Prime Minister, Farage began, his voice cutting through the chamber like steel. I hold evidence that you have betrayed every citizen of this nation, evidence that you've taken money from hostile foreign governments, evidence that you've sold British sovereignty for personal profit, and evidence that constitutes nothing short of treason against the Crown. The word treason hit like a thunderbolt. Labour MPs gasped audibly, Conservative backbenchers erupted in cheers, but Starmer sat frozen, his face draining of colour, knuckles white as he gripped the dispatch box. He knew what was coming. He'd been dreading this moment for months. Farage opened the folder with surgical precision. The first document, a bank statement from Credit Suisse, showing an account belonging to Meridian Consulting Group, a shell company with one beneficial owner, Keir Starmer himself. The account showed Humiliation in deposits over 3 years. Money from sources that made veteran MPs sick to their stomachs. The first deposit, Farage continued with devastating calm. Babajyoshiyumban, Li Ninin from Pacific Harmony Holdings, a Beijing-Jian registered company that Mai Liu identifies as a front for Chinese Communist Party foreign operations. Labour MPs started shouting, point of order. But Speaker Lindsay Hoyle looked paralyzed. Nothing in City Noon years of parliamentary procedure prepared him for this moment. Constitutional experts later confirmed no precedent existed for such devastating revelations delivered from the floor of the House. Farage wasn't finished. The second payment, Fei Down Humiliation from a Qatari sovereign wealth subsidiary. The third, Liu Bai Wushiyimban Ling from an organization funded entirely by George Soros. Each revelation hit like artillery. Labour frontbenchers began abandoning their seats. First David Lammy stood and walked out without a word, then Yvette Cooper, then Angela Rayner, then Rachel Reeves, within 7 minutes. Accusations cabinet ministers had fled in what journalists called the most humiliating mass exodus in British parliamentary history. The optics were catastrophic, senior government figures literally running from their own prime minister as evidence of his corruption was read aloud to the nation. But Farage had more ammunition. He pulled out glossy photographs. Crystal clear images showing Starmer meeting secretly with Chen Wei, a senior Chinese Communist Party operative, at a private Cotswolds estate last September. The metadata had been verified by 3 independent forensic analysts. The photographs were authentic. They were real. And they proved Britain's Prime Minister had been conducting unauthorized diplomacy with a hostile foreign power. Under British law, unauthorized negotiations with foreign governments can constitute treason. Former Supreme Court Justice Lord Sumption stated these were the most serious allegations ever leveled against a sitting PM. If proven, Starmer faced not just removal from office but criminal prosecution. Inside number Shu, sources described scenes of utter pandemonium, staff running through corridors, phones ringing unanswered. The PM's spokesman attempted a press briefing but broke down after 2 questions and had to be escorted out. Documents were allegedly being shredded, hard drives removed. One insider said it looked like the fall of Saigon, people grabbing what they could and running. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was overheard screaming that her career was over, that everything she'd worked for was destroyed in Shu Finjong Utes. Health Secretary Wes Streeting sat alone in a corridor with his head in his hands, refusing to speak to anyone. Financial markets reacted with brutal force. Within Senshifenjong Utes, the pound crashed by 5% against the dollar, the worst single-day drop since Black Wednesday in 1992. The FTSE 100 plummeted 87 points in the fastest single-day session drop since 2008. Traders in London's financial district watched in horror as billions evaporated from pension funds and investment portfolios. Goldman Sachs issued emergency guidance recommending immediate UK divestment. Morgan Stanley moved Britain to crisis watch. Currency traders in Singapore and Tokyo began betting against sterling with unprecedented aggression. Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey was photographed rushing into Threadneedle Street looking visibly shaken, clutching emergency briefing papers. One senior trader at JP Morgan told reporters, "This is Black Wednesday times 10. The British economy is in freefall and nobody knows where the bottom is." Within hours, international investors had pulled Shar-Yumbum billion from UK markets, money that would take months or years to return if it ever did. But the economic devastation paled beside Farage's next revelation. The second half of his folder contained evidence that Starmer's government had been actively coordinating with People's and smuggling networks, not to stop channel crossings, but to manage them. WhatsApp messages between Home Office officials and known smuggling coordinators discussed timing, numbers, and payment. One message read, "Next shipment arrives Arjan C. AM Tuesday. Ensure no Coast Guard in Sector T. Wu Shi Yuan. Lingning Pasaka Y Mint confirmed." The message came from a phone, registered to a senior Home Office advisor, a political appointee placed by Starmer himself. The Metropolitan Police announced a full criminal investigation within hours. Counter-terrorism officers were assigned, the most serious level possible. Public reaction was volcanic. Within an hour, Wuxi, Lingning people gathered outside Parliament. Police were overwhelmed, the crowd chanted "Traitor" and "Lock him up." With such force, the sound penetrated the chamber walls. By evening, Bawan Wu-Tin protesters filled the area from Westminster Bridge to Trafalgar Square, the largest spontaneous political protest since the poll tax riots. Then at Sawu-Tidan Arshasenfen something unprecedented occurred. King Charles summoned the Prime Minister to Buckingham Palace, not a routine audience. An emergency summons via handwritten note, delivered by Palace Equerry constitutional experts, immediately recognized the significance. The last time a monarch summoned a PM under such circumstances was Itenjo by Seashire, when George V called Neville Chamberlain to inform him he could no longer command Parliament's confidence. Sources said King Charles had received minute updates throughout Farage's speech. His Majesty watched from his private study, seeing the cabinet flee, markets collapse, crowds gathering. He'd made a decision that would echo through constitutional history. The king was preparing to act. The journey from Downing Street to Buckingham Palace normally takes 7 minutes. That night it took Sisha. Protesters had blocked Whitehall. The Mall was impassable. Police struggled to clear routes. Inside the armored Jaguar, Starmer sat alone. No aides, no advisors, just the PM and his thoughts as his career crumbled. The meeting with the king lasted hours and Shutifendon Utes. No official record exists, but palace sources provided extraordinary details. King Charles reportedly expressed deep disappointment. Not anger, but disappointment, which those who know the monarch say is far worse. His Majesty reminded Starmer of his oath to faithfully serve crown and country. Then the king asked simply, "Have you betrayed that oath, Prime Minister?" Sources say Starmer couldn't meet the king's eyes. He stared at the carpet, hands trembling. Whatever answer he gave didn't satisfy the monarch. King Charles then spoke words that will be recorded in history books. "You have placed me in an impossible position. You have endangered my realm's stability. You have broken the sacred trust between crown and government. You leave me no choice but to consider options I hoped would never be necessary." Those options include the nuclear constitutional option, the monarch dissolving parliament and calling fresh elections without the prime minister's advice. It hasn't happened since Item Babai Senchasi, but constitutional experts confirm the power still exists. While Starmer faced the king's wrath, Parliament reached a new crisis point. Labour MPs met in emergency session. The mood apocalyptic, senior figures openly discussed resignation, not just from government, but from Labour entirely. Numbers were devastating. Of Labour's 411 MPs, at least 127 were ready to vote against Starmer in any confidence motion. Another 89 wavered. Fewer than 200 stood firmly behind the PM. For context, governments need 326 votes to survive. His government was mathematically dead. At 10:17 p.m., Palace gates opened. The PM's motorcade emerged, but instead of turning toward Downing Street, it headed north toward Regent's Park, then west to an unknown destination. Starmer wasn't going home. He wasn't facing cameras, he was running again. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner made an extraordinary announcement at 10:45 p.m. "We are monitoring certain individuals' movements as part of our investigation. No one should assume they are beyond British justice's reach." The implication was clear. Starmer was being watched, tracked. Back at Westminster, Nigel Farage remained in the building all evening. While chaos swirled around him, he sat calmly in a Commons tea room, giving interviews and making calls. His demeanor was remarkable. No gloating, no triumphalism, just quiet confidence in his accomplishment. When asked by a BBC journalist how he felt about bringing down a government, he gave an answer already quoted worldwide. "I didn't bring down this government. They brought down themselves through corruption and betrayal. I merely showed the British people the truth. What they do with that truth is democracy in action." His approval ratings soared. Snap polls showed Reform UK at 38%. Labour collapsed to 19%. Farage personally achieved a 61% favourability rating, higher than any British political leader since Churchill during the war. International reaction was swift and severe. The White House expressed concern about stability in our closest ally. Chinese state media gleefully broadcast the chaos as proof of Western democratic decline. The humiliation was total and global. Then at 11:58 p.m., something extraordinary happened. A video began circulating on social media, 37 seconds showing Starmer alone in an office, recording himself on his phone. His tie was loosened, hair disheveled, eyes red from what looked like crying. The words he spoke became the most analyzed statement in modern political history. What he revealed didn't just confirm the worst allegations against him. It exposed something far bigger. A conspiracy reaching the highest levels of government across Europe and beyond. Names he mentioned included some of Earth's most powerful people. Intelligence services across 5 countries launched immediate investigations. What their findings suggests, Britain's scandal is just the beginning of something much larger and more terrifying. Nigel Farage didn't just expose a corrupt prime minister. He exposed an entire system that has been lying to the British people for decades. Starmer's career is finished. His legacy destroyed. His name will forever mean betrayal and treason. The question isn't whether Starmer survives, he cannot. The question is whether he goes to prison, whether his co-conspirators face justice, whether Britain can rebuild from this scandal's ashes. King Charles holds the nation's fate. Parliament is paralyzed, the economy is crashing, and somewhere out there, Starmer is hiding, knowing everything he built on lies has crumbled in a single afternoon. This is the end of an era. This is the beginning of something new. Britain will never be the same.